flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do this thing right away, Jake.
Yep.
City of Caledonia, Minnesota mayoral proclamation. A proclamation honoring the life and service of Robert H. Burns. Whereas Bob Burns was a longtime Caledonia resident and community member, and whereas Bob Burns was a dedicated public servant who served 25 years on the Caledonia City Council, including 7 as mayor, on the Houston County Board of Commissioners, as a volunteer firefighter, and as a volunteer for countless causes. And whereas Bob Burns was a champion of Caledonia who represented her residents and interests here in Caledonia and abroad, including trips to the Minnesota legislature. And whereas Bob Burns was born on July 23rd, passed away on July 23rd, 2026. And now, therefore, it will be resolved by the City Council that we honor the life and dedicated service of Bob Burns on that July 23rd is Bob Burns Day in the City of Caledonia, adopted by the City Council this 27th day of July, 2026.
Need to vote on that? No. You don't get a choice, actually.
Okay. Approved minutes from July 13th, 2026, regular City Council meeting.
I move we approve.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Mandy, good?
I was not here, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Consent agenda. A, approved payments and disbursements. B, annual step increases, Public Works Director and Police Chief. C, 2026 to 27 crossing guard agreement with ISD 299.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Bob, you all right?
I'm good. Aye.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Public comment. Good. Case man,
All right, excuse me. Street World here, we had our bid opening today for Warrior Avenue. We'll be awarding that probably next meeting. We gotta tie up some contracts, get some stuff prepped with the state to have here at the next meeting as well. And we'll get somebody going on that project. Tomorrow we got some pavement patches to take care of, a couple up at Caledonia and Ramsey from that fire hydrant replacement. And we had a temporary patch down at Lincoln and Ramsey that had to come out and get put in tomorrow as well. And a little bit from some curb and gutter replacement down on Old Highway Drive. So that'll get us all put back together for now. Electric department's been quite busy in their own department lately. We've got an area that we didn't have an easement, so we had to get an easement from a property owner. They were good to work with there, and just got to move an electric box and move some wires a little bit, and then we're back in action there. They put some infrastructure in up at Snowpack for that new freezer recently too, getting that building energized. And then I guess now the fall season's over up here, so we got a little more time to keep up on public works stuff besides prepping fields. Water department here, we'll have some tower cleaning quotes in a bit. We had an update from Verizon. They're planning some antenna replacements on our tower at North Decorah Street. Looking like maybe September, October, something like that. Kind of utilities in general. Last week, Jake, Steph, and I had met with SEH to get going on that rate study. You know, kind of started to feed them some information and whatnot. So it's been a little time there. I guess that's kind of the highlights we got here.
One question, Casey, how are we coming on the parking lines?
Um,
Downtown parking?
Sure. Yep. We did the one block of North Marshall. I guess that's where we ended with for now, with paint that we have. Anything that we would do with county or new pavement, we should do with the epoxy, or have to do with epoxy. So I guess I was kind of thinking the way it was gonna go was we'd budget for it for next year, to get somebody in here to do it with epoxy paint.
Is there any way to get the county to do the lines on Main? Would they consider doing the lines?
No, that would be entirely up to us.
Okay.
Jake?
Mine will be pretty short. As Casey said, we're not gonna award Warrior tonight, so we are looking to swap that out with a water tower item. We have some numbers for that. I'm waiting on, last week I got a technical assistance grant from the Minnesota Housing Partnership. That'll be for our residential projects. Hopefully by the end of this week, I hear about our grant from the University of Minnesota and the Minnesota Design Center. That one I'm really pulling for. Wednesday night, we have the open house for the Winnebago Street project. That will be from 5 to 7 in the auditorium. Kind of expecting that one to be well attended, just because the public's got some questions and we hopefully have some answers for that one. And then we have, next week we'll have the public accuracy test for the election for the August 11th primary election. That one's coming up faster than we realized almost, it seems. But other than that, I have a handful of grant applications in the fire, and then just gearing up for the election. And then really most of everything we've been doing has been tied up in Warrior and a few other things. Our mediation for the wastewater treatment plant is probably into September now, sometime in the middle of September. We are expecting that one to at least be virtual, and we haven't heard any bad news in a little while, so I think that we're getting closer to actually having it scheduled. And that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Anybody got anything for Jake? Good. New business. We are gonna replace, the Warrior Ave Extension Award. We're gonna do the water tower stuff first.
You guys ready for that one?
You go, brother.
All right, so at last meeting here, we, I guess, brought that in as a concern to get the towers cleaned inside and outside. So reached out to a handful of firms looking to provide proposals to do an interior clean out inspection and an exterior cleaning. We received 2 proposals, both attached. The one is a little bit more condensed into easier to read form from KLM, and then the second from McGuire. Pretty straightforward, I guess. KLM's at $21,750 for both towers, all the work, and McGuire's at $26,292. So recommendation to approve the proposal from KLM.
Have they ever done any work for the city before?
Yep, we've got quite a bit of history with KLM. In fact, they performed for sure the last tower cleaning,
Last inspection.
inspections, as well as comprehensive reports. And also the Verizon, last time Verizon was here for an antenna addition and switch out, they did that inspection.
KLM is involved or bids on every water tower in the upper Midwest and beyond. They're big.
Are both towers pretty much same price? They're doing
Yeah,
the same
yep.
work to both?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep, so essentially city staff have to drain the towers down. We can only do one at a time. We gotta have one of the towers full so we can all have water and pressure. So basically get it ready to be open for them when they go and clean out any sediment, debris, anything like that that's collected. And they power wash them out, sanitize them, get them ready to be filled again, and then we schedule another tower for a different day.
So what's the timeline for this work?
Basically, I just ask that it gets done within this work season yet, which is pretty much August, September, October, maybe November, I guess. You know, as long as it doesn't get too cold for outside washing.
How long does it take to do a tower?
They can do an interior in a day. Exteriors, I think it maybe 2 days a piece, kind of depends. It'll be quite a sight to watch them with the machine going up and down on the exteriors. I'll be certain to let you guys know when the day's scheduled.
Do they hang from the hooks?
Yeah, yep, the machine's hanging from the hooks and
Yeah.
usually they sit there with a remote control on it up and down.
It's like window washing.
Yeah.
Well, no more questions. I'll move that we approve KLM for the water tower cleaning for both water towers.
I'll second.
Amanda, are you good?
Yep.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Second quarter financials.
Let's see here. Oh, I love that thing, I just want to sit back here.
They can find you back there.
That's okay, I'm not like, you know, got this close of a view. Okay, second quarter. Investments. Guess we'll look at that first. At the end of June, all the funds total $8,467,145. General fund normal, just decreased for mid-year. You know, now in July, we've already received our LGA and we received the first half taxes from the company, so you'll see that the next time I come. But, so that's pretty normal to drop. Actually, I feel like that's even better than last year's. We didn't drop quite as far, so we got a little bit more cash built up, like general fund. And hence library, again, just falling negative till we can get the first half property taxes in there. So, but they do have cash sitting in their investment, so probably more in there than the cash flow the whole time. Doesn't mean that checks aren't cut out of that fund or anything else. You gotta remember, this is one big check. So they're just using each other's funds per se, so. You know, ambulance has gone up, which is good. We've having pretty good luck with our new billing agency. Feel like that's going well. And of course, their big influx there in May is when we closed out that the sale of the Washington Street land. It came down to 89,000, got moved back in there. Roughly, we sold it for 100, and again, there was closing costs, things like that. So originally, the ambulance fund actually paid for that lot out of their funds when they purchased it. So it's only right to put those funds back in here. So, which is good for them. You know, again, as it seems like the years go pretty fast, and before you know it, we'll have to trade out an ambulance. They're pretty spendy anymore, so that's their main capital that they're always building their cash up for, so. Fire, you know, they're typically in the negative, they kind of flux up and down. Again, that will get better here, bringing in the property tax that comes in. And normal debt service, everything's pretty normal there. We just paid out interest for the second half on those bonds, both the Aquatic Center and the North Kingston. Capital improvement, you know, out of the 1.5, again, a majority of that money is street reserve. I think we're up to 1.3 or 1.4 of that. Technically, quite a bit. Majority of that is street reserve. I have just transferred out. We had some, if you remember at the end of the year, we put the money aside for the plow truck. There was some extra, and the commodity shed, just that we hadn't finished a couple things as they lingered into the new year. So some of that's been transferred out since. So, and then the 400 funds again are always capital projects. As you can see, the fire ambulance building, the one with the Washington Street, is zero now, and that fund will close out. Winnebago Street, you know, it is negative right now. I'll probably leave it like that, or at the end of the year, I may move out of Fund 350 to some of the street reserve to help cover. That's all engineering in there at this point, so 47,000. likewise, well, the Warrior Avenue is a lot of probably engineering and things like that, so, again, so I'm not 100% sure when the timeline of funds for that will come in, but, we're getting all those funds, so they'll offset it at some point. And the Deering Estates, also, I moved the money from the electric. Now we'll just wait for that other money that's coming from state. So that should hopefully bring that into the positive until we move on and accumulate any more expenses out of there. Water's been doing all right. We're going up some, so, and sewer now will, and as we get into the debt, they'll have some debt service, and water also a little bit here. Principal payments coming out in beginning of August here. Probably you'll see those payments come through in the next meeting, so. Electric 2 at least has been gaining back up a little bit. They've had a little, actually, you don't even notice the drop when I did transfer the money for the portion for the Deering Estates. That was approved for you guys to cover part of the purchase, so. Stormwater, we're slowly making our way back. We usually pick up 4,000 to 5,000, and that's if he doesn't fix anything, basically, but the big drop there was this project, what is it, Ramsey and Lincoln, right? Basically, is that what I want to say?
Yeah.
At the end of the year, that was almost, I think it was 80,000, 90,000. So, which is a big hit in such a small fund here. So probably something for the future. We're gonna need to look at that fund. We can't hardly do one little project and it's got no cash then again. So, and since we started that fund, with the monthly charge, we haven't raised anything. So something to look at also. Maybe we'll get through the water and sewer rate one first and then put one at a time, right? Liquor's been doing all right. And again, we've got some funds in there. We've talked about still doing the roof, but right now, again, just a lot of things going on. And I don't think anything is dire at this point, so. And the EDA, they accumulate funds from about 4,000 to 5,000 a month, also just from loan payments, so we've got a little bit of funds sitting there for loans. Otherwise, yeah, we did drop in cash from May to June there, only 168,000, which isn't too bad. The long-term debt, like I said, we just made interest payments on the first 2 bonds, which is Kingston Street and the Aquatic Center. And then the only payments left in the top there for bonds are all PFA loans. Now that is principal and interest. And as you can see, the new plant, that's our biggest payment, $434,000 for the year being principal and interest. So we got still between water and sewer, $628 will come out probably in the next week, actually, because those payments are due on August 20th. So, and then the bottom ones are just your interfund loans again, and a lot of them I make manually here for the second half of the year, so you'll see them. Any questions on the cash, investments we haven't had? I kind of skipped over this back side of your cash. With the investments, we had one maturity, the Bank of Wisconsin Dells, and replaced it with a different, just a regular, actually that one was just a straight rate, no market linked one, so. That came due, and that was in the fund 352, because I do have some of that invested in that 352. But otherwise, we've had a little bit of activity. We'll have looks like we actually have a CD maturing in September, October, November, so hopefully rates will go up, right? A little bit of activity going on. Otherwise, the regular budget worksheet. I have put the capital sheets on top. Not a lot of items really left on here that were in the budget, let's just say. Really most of we did the AC unit in the post office, the police there's just one payment on their quad cameras there to happen otherwise. Their smaller items were purchased. They finished up the commodity shed. I think everything's about done on that, so transferred that money in. The snowplow, you know, we paid $131,000, which I believe is basically chassis. And then, again, we'll pay as soon as the truck's ready, I assume we'll pay for the second half, so. Then other little things that went on that weren't kind of in there, but yet we had funds to cover, like the dugout roofs and I did put in, 'cause some of this does go into assets, all the, if you've been up to the ballpark this summer, all the concrete and all that they did around the bleachers, the guys did a ton of things and it looks great. Got a lot of compliments because I was up there quite a bit this summer watching my nephew, and it's very neat and tidy around there with all the concrete. It's a good space also. The revenue funds really, I mean, ambulance had very little for capital and that's been purchased. The fire, their biggest was the SCBA's, and of course they came in January already, so there's a couple of other things on there. And that not always do they purchase turnout gear, kind of depends too on which guys have come in or if, but a lot of times they just try to keep replacing a few every year. So it takes a little while to get through 30 sometimes.
Except the helmet. We're gonna be, the helmets all expire at the same time.
Helmets and boots, I think.
Helmets and boots are on the
Is that what
same,
it-
similar timeline, but the helmets for sure, I'm pretty sure it's next year we got a budget for helmets.
Yeah, I think so.
Gotta write that one down, because, and boots, you know, once in a while, I'll see a pair or two come through if someone's really,
Yeah.
you know, or we get someone new that
Sounds like they're all timing out.
they can't
in the
quite
next,
get
like,
into
2
some of
years.
these old ones or this or that. So, but you're right, when they all come at once, it's kind of like, otherwise, there wasn't really much for capital either on, you know, water, sewer, electric really didn't have anything, when we started the budget. Sewer, we have a few of the lift station rehabs, which would assume maybe will still happen this year, right, Casey?
Yeah, we got some lift station work coming. We've actually got a
Yeah.
storm structure that just getting made for North Sacket, a few holes there.
Still a few things to get the water towers cleaned. Still on the list of repaint them one of these days. Somebody might give us some money. Otherwise, the regular, I guess as I went through the regular budget and all the items, general fund, everybody wasn't too bad. You know, the first half, everybody looked pretty good. As I glance into July, just a few more things, a few more projects going on. You know, you got pool and ball, everything kind of goes up. I just glanced at the pool, and that one's probably gonna be over on pool, especially in the wages area. Again, just a few things were different than last year, so. Cause we're about tapped right now. Pool almost, so. But the majority of the season, like I said, we only have a couple weeks left, so hopefully knock on wood, nothing for it to stay on.
We do have some 10-year maintenance coming up. Some of it can wait until spring for the next budget. Like we think we have a backwash filter issue, so I don't know if we can do that this fall yet or next spring, but we're gonna work on getting some proposals on that.
Yeah, I know there's a few more, I feel like bigger items and things that will come through on some of the July that will always tell me some of the other departments too. You know, we've done all that sidewalk down there and some of this other, if we can just kind of see where we're going here by the end of August even. And might have a little bit money in some other areas that, I mean, and athletic field always has a little bit, you know, I account for some wages in there, and in the end, we usually just have the umps, just because we don't seem to get anybody to manage the program, but. So again, I have a little bit in a few areas, so hopefully we can get some of the cool things if it does. Like I said, just as it probably gets a little bit older too, you know, need to maybe include a little bit more in maintenance things because it's not brand new more and things are starting to reach, gosh, are we 10 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, we gotta replace all the drains,
yeah.
things that have the lights
It's
on.
fast. But anyways, I don't feel like any other areas were not too bad, so. Trying to stay on track and do the best we can with what we have in there. Library, they've been doing okay, just trying to.
Just a quick one, Stacy, quick question.
Huh?
Okay, under intergovernmental. Police towing and impound,
What page do you have up?
Yeah, the first page, right?
second page.
Page two?
Intergovernmental.
Yeah,
So a lot of that funds, and even, I think it was even 9,000 of that was a truck that was
Oh,
truck that was,
yeah. Sits on the
Bought back.
impound side, so we had, that's DWI forfeiture on a truck that we sold, but, cause you're on revenue, right?
Yeah,
9,000 of the 10,600 was
okay.
just
Yeah.
one vehicle that was purchased back that we, I guess, seized and then,
Oh, right, yeah, so we had one that was seized that we sold, and then the state had a problem with the sale, so we had to reverse it and redo it, right? Or did we not
yeah, but
redo
we
it?
still, I guess the 9,000 never left here. I know
Yeah.
you guys had
Okay.
a little bit of paperwork to do, but it was I don't know how new the truck was a,
Oh, it was not, I think it was like a 2012 or
was it
something like
like
that.
a half ton? I mean, it was a bigger truck.
Yeah.
So it was just worth a little bit more, and so that was the value on the truck, which is very rare that we probably have something like that.
Yeah, it's been 4 years since
Yeah.
we did anything with that
And
fund.
really then that 9 needs, the police needs, it's
Got a
their
pretty small
funds, it
budget,
needs to be
so,
used.
yeah.
And then that's, all that is, all the forfeitures, all the seizure stuff is, essentially by statute, it all has to go back into DWI enforcement or education, but that's very broad. And where we get to that is that squad cars are used for DWI enforcement, so we try to take whatever we make in seizures and try to put towards future equipment purchase to offset it. I thought he was gonna ask about the $50 tow that we had. We contracted the tow truck to bring somebody's wheelchair home a couple weeks ago, and I thought for sure you were pulling a $50 charge out of the budget.
I don't see those.
Yeah,
You
like I
had a
said,
tow
that's
truck
pretty
to
far.
carry a wheelchair?
Yeah, Todd gave us a
Oh, I
Pretty
suppose
good
they
rate.
had that flatbed, sure.
electric wheelchair.
Like I said, it's pretty far and few between that we have a vehicle that's probably worth that much, and then, again, they have to purchase it back, I believe, right after the
Yep.
so. But I believe they were gonna use it towards one of the vehicles
Yeah.
anyways, so.
The idea is to offset, we're expecting a squad car purchase next year to offset a portion of that.
Yeah. So there are a few odd things that stand out like that, but, and like I said, that one's probably once every 4 or 5 years, maybe you see that. But, like I said, library, too bad, ambulance, we're about, gross billings, maybe a fuzz down, but right in there, and a lot of its expenses are right in there. We do have some funds that aren't budgeted in here, because I think that grant came out after the budget was done, so that will help cover, his radios and a bunch of the supplies. I think we have 14,000 roughly awarded by the state that you guys approved the resolution, back in February or March. So that will help to offset, and even some of the pagers. I do budget a few, but I see like their equipment's over a little bit. They've had a lot of new people, I think, in the ambulance, so they've needed more pagers, plus some of them were just old, and as he hands them out, then they don't work, and it's just been this vicious cycle, so trying to get a lot of them replaced, but otherwise, fire didn't have too much in expenses really the second quarter. And really water sewer, none of those guys had really any large expenses. I didn't note anything for either one, so, which was good. And electric either. Out of the ordinary, no breakdowns, things like that. They should never say that, but. Liquor store, basically right in there, half the year, so. Looking okay there. We, shows a bigger expense when we did the alley, behind there. And I usually have like 5,000 in the labor and services. So we're a little over there, but hopefully in the end, I'll have some other lines that should make that up. Need to be fixed back there, so looks good. Any questions on any of the departments or pages? Have you seen anything? I was real happy with the first half, so. Can change quick, but it's good. Everybody seems to be aware and ways to do the best with what we have. And things like that, so. Yeah.
Thank you for your hard work, Steph.
As
We
we
appreciate it.
roll forward, I'm just going to try to get some letters out to departments for budget and levy for the new year this week. Maybe by the end of the week, I'll get that to happen. Just been a lot between finishing up the regular audit. It's just been a little delayed process, it seems like, in getting info from them, and the fire relief audit, was working on some of them. Insurance renewals seem to go on forever. Rate study, I did get, like Casey said, we met with her and they sent her a lot of documents, so hopefully I won't hear from her for a little while. It's gonna take her a while to get through everything for water and sewer, some of the old rate sheets, all the usages, all the billings, just to help her understand everything, different capital, all our budget information and actual. So she's got a lot of info, so they can start on that. But
When I met with Kurt and Jeff and Mike this morning, they were talking about their budgets. So they're
Oh, that's good.
preparing for you. You have them trained well. Yep.
usually I try to get it out
You want this one
second to
too?
last week, July, last
Yeah.
week.
Kurt's like, first of August, we'll
I
get
kind of
first.
pushed it back a little bit because I used to do it earlier, and Adam was a little more like, let's start earlier, but then they seem to, I got a lot of time, and then we throw it aside, so sometimes you're better off just, but it's good that they're thinking, because, especially general fund, and again, any special revenue, which is fire, anything that we levy, we would need to do that. I won't work on the enterprise right away, since that's not part of the levy, and we'll have to set it, I'm guessing the date, I didn't look it up, it's usually September 30th, so we'll probably set the levy that last meeting of September, see where we end up with it. Seemed like I had a long time, and all of a sudden, I'm like, gotta start all over again, so. Summer just started, and now, I said, almost like the pool's wrapping up, ball, now we're done, and our umpires are bringing their last time sheets, so that will help. I'm gonna do a lot with the umpires in the ball, which is good. I think the program hopefully went well, hopefully everybody was happy.
Thanks for doing that.
We had a lot of variety of kids this year, and I feel like a lot of them, as they brought their time sheet, I said, you wanna do it? Come back next year? And they said yes. No, I don't know if they're just lying to me, but so, but like I said, I think it ran well, and most of our coaches, I think, did a super job. They represent us in the program, so it seemed like everything went well and everybody communicated well, so hopefully you hear good things out there, but yeah. Well, we'll start. Got any questions on levy or budget or suggestions? So, here we go, right?
Awesome.
All right. Well,
Thank
thanks.
Thank you, Steph.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Steph.
C, fee schedule amendment, category C, sewer service charge.
Okay, so we gave you a little report plus some city code on this one, but I'm gonna try to run it down here quickly. So category C waste is defined as industrial waste, septic, or holding tank wastewater. And we typically get our category C from only one hauler, and septage is basically all the category C that we take. And right now we're charging the $25 administrative fee that's in the code plus a unit price, which is, there is no unit price for category C. So what we do charge is the residential sewer rate, the one that everybody in town pays, the $6.90 per 1,000 gallons. We're also then, it's not a one-to-one exact thing necessarily, you couldn't track the stuff, but when that septage is put in our tank or is treated, then it's added to just everything else that we treat, and sometimes that results in sludge that's hauled out. So basically we're charging a rate to take a certain amount of waste, and then we are also paying to have that same waste trucked out later once it's processed. And why that's important is, so on a 4,000 gallon sludge hauler dump, the load is approximately 25% solids, but then there's flocculants. The treatment process will then thicken that sludge to, and a double in size to about 2,000 gallons. So we're charging very little plus $25, and then we are paying the same person to take that out. So, and why this is sticky is because the $25 administrative fee is set by ordinance. You will not be able to change that tonight, but then the code refers to the unit rate. And as I said, we have never set that unit rate. So I believe that procedurally, we have no problem setting a unit rate, and then the ordinance says we have to advertise it for a month before it's effective. So we put our heads together, and I think I've basically recovered it, but $6.90 per 1,000 gallons is not covering it. So we need to, and we're using the sludge hauler as a model. That's how we did our math. That's how we arrived where we arrived. But we think that a closer rate to where we think we can actually break even on the treatment and the trucking ends up at about $220 per 1,000 gallons plus the $25 administrative fee. That is time that we spend on the bills, processing all that. And as I said, that can't change unless we change the ordinance. But then that break-even rate is just for trucking, just for transportation, essentially. If we include the time, the energy, and the resources that we spend on treatment, we put in another $33 per 1,000 gallons. So that gets us to an effective category C usage rate of $253 per 1,000 gallons or higher. But 253 is where we are making a little bit off that to offset the expenses that we get, then we haul it out. So again, this is a very unique situation, but it's not unique. It's the category C, the dumping, the RV, all that type of stuff is pretty typical in other plants. It's not typical in ours. We only have very little category C that comes in. So I don't want you to think that this is setting a rate that would affect a ton of people. It's a pretty small sample. That's why we're able to, that's why we have such a specific rate in mind, is because we have a very specific situation in mind. In other situations for like industrial users that are hooked up to the sewer system, we have a separate rate for that, or we have the regular rate for that, but then we're allowed to set unique base charges. That's what we do with the Caledonia haulers because they're our biggest industrial user. That's something that is independent of this. That's an authority that we keep through that process, just with working with utilities, and that's a power that you need to have because you don't control necessarily what goes on in the industrial buildings. So with that, I will take any questions.
Do you think they will haul it someplace else?
Possibly.
Which isn't a problem, I guess. We don't need it, but.
No, that's it. I mean, with the new plant, we're producing more sludge than we were in the past. That's kind of been one of the biggest byproducts. Our new plant can certainly handle it. I don't believe that we're running into too much of a capacity issue. I mean, we would know if we were in an extreme capacity issue and we would stop taking the waste in the first place. So right now, we don't need it, and it's costing us money. Mm-hmm. So if that were to happen, it wouldn't, I mean, we wouldn't continue to backslide.
Who's the one that brings it in?
A1.
A1, okay.
They must know they're getting a hell of a deal.
We haven't had that conversation.
Is he the one that hauls it out?
Yes, sir.
So he's making it on the other end too? Or is that, you think you'll increase that rate?
Well, I would think that,
The 253 is just gonna cover our cost.
yeah, that,
Keep in mind, anybody that brings in septic is not paying a base rate, they're not part of our system, you know, any of that stuff, so, you know, as we mentioned, it's a service we're providing that we don't have to allow it. But we've been able to, you know, accommodate it,
And
so,
maybe that's why he's coming here.
of course.
I mean,
yeah,
He
yeah.
has to know.
And we've had several others ask about bringing it. There's another unit around town, I'm not sure who bought it now, but, you know, there's always a potential for more. And essentially, we found a hole in the system last week, so we said, whoa, we gotta take care of this, you know?
and we'd expect any hauler that's gonna see an increase like that, it's gonna get passed on to the customers, so there's a chance that septic pump outs in the nearby area will get more expensive because of that, but it is cost of doing business, and with a 1 month to advertise, the word should get around pretty quickly. And I mean, I've been basically avoiding it, but yeah, that we found an issue and we have to fix it. So this is our proposed fix. I don't know how long, I don't have an estimate for how long this has been going on or how much necessarily we've maybe lost on the deal, but this is fixing it going forward. And not to mention too, I think you basically covered it, but everything that we're getting by definition is coming from outside of Caledonia. So we are, at this point right now, if it stays like it is, the ratepayers are paying for outside waste to be treated and then hauled off. So at the very least, we have to get that up to that break even so that people in town are not paying to have somebody else's sludge hauled away.
What do the RVs do?
We actually have a separate RV rate in our code that's $10, and we don't take
never had
any.
anybody that we're aware of. I mean, we've never let campers come in and do it. Typically, a town that would do that would actually have a station installed specifically for it. We kind of covered that back when we designed the new plant, and there's no interest to do such.
You never see them running it down storm sewer?
I've heard stories, I've never seen it.
Okay.
Yeah. Typically, I don't think we worry too much around here. I mean, I guess you got Beaver Park close by, but I think most of those folks are from out of town and, you know, go elsewhere with it.
That one also is set by ordinance, so we couldn't change it if we wanted to until we crack it open.
I mean, I'll be honest, staff would prefer not to start offering that service, just because it does kind of, you know, take some time, and there's really no good place to do it.
Sure. Well, I don't know how we can't do this.
Yeah, it's just a matter of where you want to set it. There's no, if you raise the rate and then try to put some profit on top, I guarantee you they will not make any money off that. I think the break even is, for the most part, appropriate. We can't get that treatment number down to an exact dollar, but this gets us where we're at least covering some of, because we spend a lot of money on materials to treat, and that's where there's an actual cost to it. So the $253 per 1,000, that's simple enough. That's gonna make it'll be noticed when we change it from that to that. So
I was kind of surprised to hear that 25% is solids in those loads.
yeah,
I thought what they were pumping was mostly liquid, but
Well, most of the liquid goes out in their drain field or their mountain system, and we can't hold you solid, so that's why it's such a high volume. You know,
Sure.
versus actual wastewater, we typically receive is, 90-some% water and, very small percentage of solids.
Is that proposed rate run in line with other cities?
They didn't even check her out.
Yeah, we didn't.
These are hard numbers from our actual costs. As far as the treatment goes, I plug numbers into our Excel spreadsheet that we use for our other significant user, to come up with.
But you might find that other cities do 500 I mean, you might, and
The
that
one
might
that-
be why the person
Yeah,
is
yeah.
doing it here.
Yeah, the one we looked into was West Salem, but in Wisconsin, a lot of this stuff is set by the Public Utilities Commission. So if there were an advantage, or if there's not an advantage, it's gonna be statewide. So that would be, yeah, I mean, I'll never be able to answer the second part of your question, but we took, this number is based on, because it's one user, we were able to calculate as
Sure,
close to
I totally
exact, but
understand, it's just really
yeah.
if you would be able to confidently move forward and
yes,
feel confident that you're making the right decision, no matter whether he leaves or not, or anybody else comes, you know?
well, we know it needs to be at least this much, and then if there are more users that if we start to accept more category C down the road, we won't then be paying them to truck it out. So we'll have really, we'll be not backsliding, that's the main thing. And then really actually the competition, if we had a little bit of competition in the hauler side of things, that would start to maybe trend that downwards to where we were right where we needed to be, but really it's just based on our actual costs. So if we did a regional one, I would actually be curious to see where that, well, you know what, I'll tell you what, we're having a utility rate study being done right now, so we'll get an answer on that by the end of this one. So this is at least a stopgap for now.
I mean, it helps with the conversation when he comes back and
Sure.
says, hey, now you're screwing me, or, you know, why so inflated? You can confidently answer those questions, like, feel free to go anywhere else, you'll be paying twice as much, or, you
Sure.
know, we're just covering our costs, or those communications
What
are
happens if-
important.
What happens if A1 increases their rate to haul it out? How is that figured in, or can we, we haven't taken that into consideration?
No,
But if
but-
we're charging him more, maybe.
We will get our prices up front for the first few
Okay.
runs, I would say.
Sure.
Competition is good, Bob. He
Yeah,
wants to raise prices,
absolutely.
somebody else will fill the gap.
Whatever happened to our waste hauler?
So,
We still have it, but we've lost our land to apply on that was right next door.
Right.
And so we've been struggling for the last 2-3 years to get land certified. We had a patch for last fall. Guy ended up only wanting to take about half of it, so we had to haul some out elsewhere. Certified another farm, neighboring property wasn't happy about it, shut that one down. So then we certified another farm and we're waiting on the results. So we've been fortunate to have a few other folks willing to take it, but, so what our land application looks like now is not our little 2,000 gallon sludge hauler, it's 3 semi-tankers, tendering, running out to this farm a few miles away. And then, hiring a tractor with a tanker and ripper on it, because we have to eject it too within 24 hours, so. Pretty much that's looking like the process going forward. I mean, we'll keep our sludge hauler for things that we can utilize it for otherwise, but it's kind of getting to the point where it needs a lot of work. And it's with the ripper's order shot, I mean, we would need to put a lot of money in, and it's, at the end of the day, it's a big investment. To buy a new one, we're looking at $400,000 or $500,000.
Those tanks don't last forever.
No, of course not, no.
No, it's a lot of corrosion, I'm sure. So how do we go about this? Can I make a motion to consider a category C dump charge of $253 for 1,000 gallons?
yes,
Is that enough?
that will do it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
John, are you good?
Yeah.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Overtime report, pay period July 6th through 19th. Looks good to me.
Yeah.
Next regular council meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 10th, 2026, and I will adjourn the meeting.
Jake, you can rock sign.